Hey y'all, welcome back to At the Table podcast, a virtual table where we discuss all things young adulting. My name is Fikayo and thank you so much for having me back in your ears. Alright, so let's start this podcast. As you can see, this is a Let's Talk podcast, and if you are new here, these are the episodes where I just talk about what's going on in my life, and you kind of just follow me on my journey through adulting. So today is actually Labor Day, the Monday before this is actually supposed to come out. So the date is 09/04/2023. So September 4th, 2023. And it is currently 10:42 p.m. So I'm trying to just get this podcast out before my whole week starts, because I know my week is going to be hectic. So if I could just kind of get this done and get it scheduled, that way I don't have to worry about it come Friday and worry about it throughout the week, because I know that it's already been recorded. Every time I come and it's time for one of these podcasts, I'm coming raw, no script, nothing, because I just want to talk to you guys. Well, maybe I jot a few things down, but it's just to give me, some direction through these episodes. But it's really just going to be my raw thoughts and what I'm currently thinking about and the current happenings in my life. But before we start all of that today, let's talk about what I've been praying for. What I've really been praying for right now is discipline. And I know I've done this same discipline every time. I do it all the time. I do it quite often, where I say that what I'm praying for is discipline. But I think that every day, and the more I'm getting into my profession and the older I'm getting, I'm realizing that discipline is so important. And we're actually going to touch on that a little bit more, but we're going to move through that and we're just going to go on what I'm snacking on. Right now, what I am currently snacking on is weddings. For the last, I think, 3 days, I have either been involved in, I was in a fake wedding and I went to 2 other weddings. So it's kind of just been all wedding galore. And I know you're probably thinking, what is a fake wedding? So essentially, it was one of our friends. He wants to expand his portfolio. So he asked a few of us to come together and kind of do a fake wedding photo shoot. So that's what I did. But even just seeing that and being in that vibe and then going to weddings, I've kind of just been in wedding mode, and it's nice. And it's something nice to look forward to, but I'm happy that I'm looking forward to it. That it's not currently in my life right now. I'm happy that right now my main responsibility, my main goal is to kind of figure out my life and what I'm doing with it. And I'm happy that eventually I will be able to get that wedding planning and that wedding experience with the lucky mister in which I marry. But that's what I've been snacking on currently. Okay, now let's get into our conversation today. Today has been a mix of emotions for me specifically. I caught some W's, I caught some wins, and there were some good things that happened today, but then there were also some other things that kind of just shot my heart. And it's so annoying how it's the bad things that always have more of an effect on you personally and your mood than the good things. And it's the bad things that you remember, it's the scars. It's the bad things that leave scars on your body. But good things don't leave scars. I don't know. But I don't know. I caught an L today, or I caught a few L's today, and they kind of just hurt me. But I keep trying to remind myself that this isn't a sprint. Life isn't a sprint. Life is a marathon. And that's what I'm in it for. I'm not in it for the quick bursts of achievement. No. I'm in it for the long haul. That this is something that what I'm trying to do with this podcast, what I'm trying to do with myself, isn't something that's going to grow overnight. And if it comes so easy, then it probably wasn't even worth it, right? Or at least that's what I'm trying to tell myself. But I'm trying to tell myself that where I'm trying to go, what I'm trying to do, I need to fight for it. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to fight for it. But sometimes it does get so hard. I think I talked about it last podcast or 2 podcasts or 3 podcasts ago. I don't know. But the iceberg theory, right? The people just see the tip of the iceberg, but they don't see all the things that happen underneath. And that's what I'm kind of getting stuck on. Like, there's so much work that I do underneath all the successes, or even if there are any successes right now, right? But it's like the waking up so early and the constant discipline, the hard things that I do, eliminating procrastination and beating myself into this person that I need me to be able to achieve all of my ambitions. Even the mental work around it all as well. I am doing serious mental work. Like right now, I am in the middle of like reframing everything I know about life and people and perspective and religion, everything, in order for me to figure out what path works or is going to work the best with me, and figure out the path that God intended for me to live on, like the frequency God intended for me to live on. And it's something that is hard, but I won't lie, it is rewarding. It definitely is. Especially when people see me and they're like, "Oh, you look a bit more toned." Like, yeah, I have been working my butt off running every morning like a crazy person. Or like, "Oh, Fikayo, like, I'm proud of your consistency on the podcast." And it's like, yeah, it kind of like bothers me when I don't get it done on time and then I stay up all night trying to edit and stuff, or I have to buy a $200 piece of equipment. Can you imagine? That's besides the point. For something that I'm not getting paid for, and that's another thing as well. Like, money and time these days are my two biggest commodities, or like are the two biggest commodities, I guess. Like, time, first off, is so important, and I'm finding that I am not having enough of it for some reason. Like, I do wake up super early and stuff like that to make sure I do get things done, but I don't know, like, I don't understand. By 9, like, before I open my eyes and close it, it's already 9 p.m. And it's time for me to go to sleep, just to start a whole nother day again and watch it just all kind of go like really, really fast. So again, that's why I'm really, really trying to be more intentional about my day and really focus on mindfulness. So throughout the day, I really try to catch myself and say, like, I am in this moment. This is me. I'm alive. I'm right here. So that, like, I can kind of sit in these 2-3 seconds while I'm kind of running around with like a chicken with my head cut off, And then money. Like, I have all of these goals and these dreams and these things I want to do. And especially since I'm starting to lean more towards like an entrepreneur mind, you need money for all of these things. You need money for really good equipment. I'm really trying to like figure out some type of intro for this podcast. I need to figure out who can help me do it. I do want to do a video version of this content, of this podcast, and I do have a camera already, but I need to figure out like a studio space and stuff like that. It's just a lot of things to think about sometimes. And then on top of that, it is a business. So like doing all the back end business work for all of this stuff as well. Like, it's a lot, and it doesn't seem like there's enough time between everything, which is just so interesting. And I'm learning that I have to figure out how to make time and squeeze everything in. And I think that in of itself is also a skill. But I mean, nevertheless, though, I am happy that I get to learn all of these things. But you know what? It is so interesting because even as I was driving this morning, so I listened to a crap ton of podcasts. Like, I listened to a lot of podcasts. And what is very, very interesting is I listen to a lot of the podcasts that are geared towards exactly what I want to hear and exactly what I'm trying to tap into are all podcasts led by men. They're all podcasts led by like probably rich white men. And it's so interesting because it's like I almost get to peek over the curtain, right? And see what they're teaching the boys. And I'm like, so this is what they're teaching y'all? Meanwhile, they're teaching us how to cook and sit in the kitchen and be submissive. They're teaching y'all how to persevere and how to get through all the hard times. Like, what about us? Why is it always, I don't know. I have my own plight with social norms and gender norms and everything, but I always find that women podcasts are always really, really good for capitalizing on the struggle story of being a woman. And oh man, maybe that's gonna sound really bad, but I don't hear a lot of women that are actively speaking about how they got to where they are, or the successes, or I don't see spaces created for successful women, in all types of women, white women, black women, brown women, all types of women. I just don't see it. I see where we talk about, the how we have to sacrifice for our family and all of those things, and oh no. And it's so interesting also though, because I do listen to some very small amount of female podcasters, I guess. And what I'm finding with the older generation especially is a common theme of them telling young girls to not sacrifice. And I have never loved anything more than this. Like, I don't know, like, she was just like, there was one specifically that I was listening to, yeah. And she was like, if I am at 25% and I'm showing up to everything 25%, like nothing is getting done. But if I'm able to get myself to 100%, I'm selfish with my time and my energy, and I sit at 100%, that means I'm able to give everybody else my 100%. And that's one of the things I was listening to in the boys podcast as well. Anyway, besides the point, they was talking about how, if you are fulfilled in your job, you will be fulfilled. Like, it's not like they try to make things seem like, if you do very well in one area, you're going to do badly in another area. No, maybe it's not like that. Maybe it's more expansive. Maybe if you enjoy where you work and what you do, maybe it will lead to a great workout, and then maybe you'll go and meet your family and you'll be more happy. It's not that you sacrifice on one end or another. So that's what I'm thinking about with life as well. Like, for me right now, right? Like, maybe if I'm able to figure out how to be a successful entrepreneur, it doesn't mean that I'm giving up on my family, because that's a common narrative as well, right? That, oh my gosh, this woman, she's going to be an entrepreneur, but she's probably going to neglect her family, or what's her work-life balance going to look like? Like, no. Maybe there's a world that exists, right, with God, that I'm able to do all the things and be really good at all of them, because it's not that I'm giving and taking. I'm expanding as a human, and my reach is expanding, and my width is expanding as well. So that's one thing that I'm really trying to really tap into, that there is no excuse for me to do really well in one area but be slacking in another. Absolutely not. That means that something's wrong, or maybe I'm not doing it with God. But if I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing, right, and God has my back, then it should mirror like enough. Like, there's grace for it. There should be grace for it, right? So, that's another thing I've been thinking about. Like, oh my goodness, like, what if I really do like go into my career? Will I be a bad mom? And by no means do I want to be a bad mom, but I also don't want to be someone who a mom is my only identity, So where is that balance? And I just like that I'm learning that there is a balance. It's not even a balance if it's like it's a personality. Like, you grow into it and then you expand from it. So because you're a great businesswoman is why you're probably going to be a great mom, because you understand leadership. So you're able to maybe connect with your children better. It's not a give or take. Maybe it's a well-rounded experience. Anyway, that's one of the things that I've really been meditating or thinking about lately. Another thing that I've really been thinking about, or really just honestly just observing, I was talking to my therapist about it. And he asked me, anyway, let me get into it so then I could tell you about my therapist, whatever. Anyway, so I'm just like noticing that people who I did life with and started life with, like, all of us are going in different directions, and like, obviously, duh, right? But it's not something they talked about growing up. It's not something that anyone ever warned me about. Like, like I'm literally watching people who I went to elementary school and middle school and high school with literally like go off into their own lives. And it's so interesting because I believe that at a point, right, when you were young, you didn't classify yourself as an individual. You classified yourself as the grade that you were in. So like, it's not like I'm just Fikayo or I'm Adia, right? But I'm a first grader. Like I'm a first grader. So you should expect that like everything I do is just on a first grade level. And then also I identify with my peers as well. So we are all first graders together, you know? So to now see like, you know, the people who I identified as first graders and fifth graders and seniors kind of like become individuals is mind-blowing to me. And in a way, it's also really scary. I don't know. It's just something that I've just been observing and I've kind of just been at awe in, if that's the correct manner of English. But it's like, wow, like there's some people I see and I'm like, how the hell did you get there? You are doing such a great job. But then there's some other people I see and I'm like, how the hell did you get there? Like, and it's not like I'm doing too great myself. Like I have my own whatevers. But it's like, wow, like people really be living different lives. And then there's some people that I can't even find on the face of the earth. There are some people that I search up and I just can't even find them, or they're just the face in my head, but I don't know like who they are. And I find myself often like looking for people who I went to high school or middle school with and then going through their followers and just like seeing who is where and who is doing what and like how far everyone has gone. Like the best way I can compare it, like visually in my head, I see it as a tree. Like every branch just goes their own which in every way. And I think it's just because I'm a young adult. I'm just like now noticing it, but it doesn't even stop here. Like pretty soon people are going to start getting married. People are going to start having kids. People are going to start buying houses. People are going to be like doctors and presidents and stuff. And some people are going to need like extra help. Like, you know, some people are just not going to make it as far. And it's just crazy how, again, like I identified with these people as me, and everyone's just kind of going off in their own lives. It's just something that nobody prepared me for. And I'm kind of like just looking and observing, and I was like, wow, this is very, very interesting. Another thing I wanted to talk about was goals. I don't know why I wrote this here. I wrote this list a few days ago, but I don't know, actually. I have no idea. I don't even know. So I'm just going to skip over that. 2024, I wrote that as well. So yeah, maybe this ties into the goals thing. I have no idea. But, I remember thinking about 2024 and I was like, it's September. Like, bro, like it is time for people to start thinking the end of the year is coming. We're in the burr of the years, right? So of the year, right? So it's time to start thinking about 2024. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to roll everything over, trying to make sure that my goals that I wanted to achieve this year, like, you know, that I'm kind of sitting on them, or I'm doing them, or I'm working towards them. I am also like rolling things over, like I said. So like, what goals do I have now that will continue in 2024? What goals were probably not too specific, but maybe I should make them a bit more specific in 2024. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just getting into that time. And actually, I was never a fan of goals. I thought they were just so stupid. But I think it was because, well, I was also just quite a rebellious child when I was in high school. But now I actually really enjoy the concept of goals, because now it's kind of like a game to me. It's like, let's see if I can do this thing. And this year I really, really did, like really, if I didn't meet my goals, I'm really close to them, to where probably by the end of the year I should be able to meet them. And if I don't meet them, I should be like one finger touching them. You feel me? Like I shouldn't be too far or too deviated off of my goals, which in of itself is an accomplishment and I'm happy about. Speaking of like goals, right? The growth of this podcast has been something I've been thinking about as well. And it was actually one of the things that caught me as an L today. I'm not going to go into specifics, but like Oh my gosh. There was something I wanted with this podcast, and it just felt like it was in reach, right? And it got swept up under me. Like, it just got swept up under me. And it's it just really hurt. Um, but it is what it is. With podcasts, it's actually really hard to grow podcasts because there isn't an organic sharing system as opposed to YouTube and stuff, right? That happens with podcasts. And also, not a lot of people listen to podcasts. So, I don't know. This podcast is a lot to think about. And I love it. Jeez Louise, I love this podcast, but it is a lot to think about. Eventually I do need to figure out how to like expand my platform. So I need to figure out how to get it on YouTube in one way or another. And I do need to set up a studio, and I really would like you guys to be able to see me and watch me. And also I need to think about like new ideas. I need to run a study with my friends probably and see if this podcast format is working. Like, I need to get critique from people who have heard and listened to this podcast so I can just make sure that we're here for a very long time. I also need to figure out how to get paid for this podcast because this podcast is expensive. And paying for equipment and so on and so forth, it's money. So I need to figure out a way that this podcast is able to sustain itself. I'm also considering probably getting an assistant at some point because honestly, it is a lot of work. On top of everything else, all the million other things I do in like regular life, I really enjoy this podcast. I just can't do it by myself. So I don't know if y'all know anyone, or if you're listening to this podcast and you are an experienced podcaster, please give your girl some help. I am putting out an SOS right now. If you know someone who I could probably connect with that knows what they're doing with all of these things, please let me know. Please hit me in the DMs. If you have my phone number, give me a call because a girl needs a hand. Yep. Another thing I wanted to talk about was systems. So I've come to realize that I did very well this year because I just have systems. Maybe it'll be a book one day. I don't know, but I'm kind of getting tired of talking. So I'm going to start moving things quicker. And the last thing I actually wrote about was insecurities. So last week, for some reason, insecurities was really, really heavy on my mind. And I think maybe I listened to something, or no, I think I was talking to someone and they were telling me about an insecurity or so. And then it made me really sit in like my own thoughts. And then it just made me realize that I don't think I have any so I have insecurities, right? But I am no longer insecure. And it's so interesting because there was a point in which I was very, 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 very insecure. And now, to like do that introspection and realize that I'm not necessarily insecure anymore, it was pretty great. And it was interesting, and it's something I think I want to talk about, at least how I got there. And I also want to talk about pretty privilege as well, because that's something that has been bouncing around in my head as well. And I really want to see if I can bring a friend on here and I have a conversation with the friend. I think it would be a lot more engaging that way. But we will see as well. My last final shoot is, please, if you want to come on this podcast, let me know. If you have an idea that you want to talk about, let me know. I'm always down. If you want to just sit here and talk with me on the podcast, that's also great. If you have a brand that you want to promote, let me know. We can talk it through. Just if you want to be on this podcast, literally it's called At the Table. I am not the only one seated at this table. You are as well. So if you want to come on or you're listening to me, let me know. I will gladly have you on. And it doesn't even have to be, like in person. You don't have to be in the same state. You don't even have to be in the same country as me. I know ways to figure it out. I know ways and methods to get behind it. It'll literally just be like a phone call. It actually probably will be a phone call, and I'll record it, and I know how to do it. So if you have the time, if you have the bandwidth, if you have the story, if you have a brand, anything. If you want to interview me, just let me know and I would gladly have you on here. But thank you so much again for sitting with me and having me in your ears. It is now time to wipe off the table and clear the dishes. I really hope I said that correctly. Yeah, please. I cannot emphasize this enough. Whatever you're listening to me on, follow me, subscribe, add the podcast, to download the podcast, anything. If you can as well, please give it a 5-star rating. I really need it. It really helps me. I've talked about how it's hard for podcasts. Well, it's hard for podcasts to be distributed and to be seen. So if you putting stars and following me and stuff, it really does help me grow. Also, repost me on your story, please. Let your friends say that you're enjoying me and you like my conversations, because a girl is trying out here. I really am. So please try to promote me as well. And honestly, you will have my teeny weeny heart. But I really appreciate you listening. Don't forget to laugh all the time and pray really loud. Yep, I messed that up. Did you hear that? No, don't forget to laugh really loud and pray all the time. I love you. Goodbye.